Okay, cool. So if you flip down, we are at week 4. It's crazy. We're already here so fast. This class moves crazy fast. But we're going to get into some 2 point now. 2 point is simple. Well, it's not simple, but it's simple in that it's just adding another vanishing point to your drawing, right? We've been dealing with one vanishing point this entire time. Now we're just adding in a second one. Um, Basically, when you're doing this, you want to keep them pretty far away from each other. As you can see here, if you keep them far away from each other, like in this one here, you're gonna get this nice even grid, right? You're not gonna get any distortions. If you place them too close to each other, you're gonna get distorted shapes like this because think of it as like a when you're using two point perspective, it's almost like you're using like a really wide angled lens. And so the closer that is to each other, the more kind of fisheye effect you're going to be getting, like really distorted effect. The further they are away, you're going to be getting like a normal but really wide shot. 2 point perspective is good for if you want to show like a really big wide street scene or just a really big like scene that has like a ton of detail in it. This is kind of where you want to be at. You can kind of do stuff like that in 1 point, but in 1 point everything in your drawing is going towards that one vanishing point. In 2 point, the world is kind of opening up now, right? So you're seeing a couple different sides of objects. You're seeing just think of it as just like opening up the world. It's almost like opening up both of your eyes now, right? Because like in 1 point, you're kind of using one vantage point. 2 point, you're seeing everything. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much how you kind of play around with that. So let's get around to actually playing around with it. Um, So on your piece of paper, oh yeah, and also, sorry, let me go through the references too. So the references here, we're going to be drawing for this week and next week. We're going to draw the front side. We're going to draw both sides of a building on its corner. So you'll be able to kind of see like how to attack that. And even if that's a little bit too challenging, you have stuff like this, right? Where you can draw just one side of a building and then you'll have like this empty space over here. You'll kind of be able to know how to do that. All right, so let's get warmed up. All right, so on a piece of paper, let's just make four four kind of small rectangles here. Just like that. Nothing crazy special. Just try to make them, about as big as you can. Takes up the paper. All right, and everybody got the PDF, right? Just let me know in the chat if I need to like repost it or anything. All right, tight. So in this top row, go ahead and just make one line going through that. It's going to be your horizon line. And then do the same down here. Now, when we're messing around with 2 point perspective, there's kind of rules and there's kind of not rules, right? It's okay to have one vanishing point be in the paper. Like this, like all these squares are basically like representing your paper, right? But you, like I said, you want this second one to be off of your paper or way over there. So let's start with one vanishing point here. And then let's place another vanishing point over here. All right, Alex, I will post that one more time. Give me 1 second. So everybody got that? Cool. So once you got these two vanishing points down, just start kind of lightly projecting out lines from each of them. Again, just keep them really light. Keep them kind of freehand. You don't really need the ruler just yet because again, we're just like kind of warming up. But just try to cover, the whole drawing area, just like that. So now from there, right? Does everybody kind of see these little squares that are kind of starting to form in your drawing? Right? You see this kind of like it's like kind of like a checkerboard. We've basically just made a grid again, right? So from here, you got two things that you can do. You can either just pick anywhere on this grid to just start building out the sides of the shape. So I can go, let's say, just start with like a straight line. Again, right? All of your vertical lines are still going to stay vertical with your paper. This is like one point when we made that grid where everything was vertical and horizontal with our paper. Now, the only thing that's changing is that we have two diagonal lines, but we still have that vertical grid system. What you can do is if you really want that grid in there, you can do, what we did in week one where we made points up top, like that. And then we kind of connected them together. You can do that, or just know that every vertical line that you're putting down is just running perpendicular with your paper, right? Like if you don't want to put that grid system in there, you don't have to, but just know that any of these lines that you're putting in there, they need to just be running vertically with your paper. All right. So from there, we're going to build out our first shape. So I'm going to say here and going to connect the top and the bottom of this first line that we just made here back to this vanishing point over here. So do that. And then along this is again like we kind of did in one point, right? Along these guidelines now, you're going to drop in that second line. So I'm going to put mine just here since I already have it. So go ahead and drop that in. Good. Now you're going to come back up here to the top, to this top line here. And now the top and the bottom line here are going to be going to this vanishing point over here. So just go boom and boom. Use a ruler if you can't do it freehand, just use a ruler. Right? And then again, right? These are our guidelines for this side of this square that we're making. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it can be this wide right there. Right? And then just kind of darken everything up like that. Everybody see that? Cool. All right. So I want you all to make another cube anywhere on this first picture plane that you got. Good. And if anybody needs me to redo it again, let me know. But I want y'all to try it out too. And Alex, I'm attaching that PDF now back into the chat. So everybody take a couple minutes just to make a square. It can be, here. Right next to it. It can be above it, be below.
Derek, would you mind running through that again really quickly?
Yeah. Okay.
I like have a problem with seeing the shapes and everything and how it comes together.
Yeah. No worries. So once we kind of so you get those 2 points down and you've kind of projected out your diagonal lines, right?
Okay.
What you can do from there, just erase this. So anywhere along here, and if it helps you too, just make give yourself that grid again, just to kind of show you that you have all these vertical lines, right?
Okay.
From there, I like to just come in here, just anywhere on here, and I like to just throw down a line, right? Just say this is going to be my first line, right?
Okay.
You get rid of this guy. So go ahead and put a line down. So now from there, once you have that line down, you're going to go from the top and the bottom. You're just going to connect those back to this vanishing point over here,
All right.
just like that. Now, anywhere along here, you can make this shape as big or as small as you want. So you can say it's going to be this side of the shape's going to be this big, or it's going to be this small or this wide, right? It can be anywhere along that.
Okay.
Let's just say for now, it's just going to be that wide. Now, so
Okay.
from there, you can just kind of darken that up just so you can see that that's like the side of that shape.
Okay, so then you're just erasing the other sort of boxes around it.
What's that?
You're erasing the other lines around it to have the box sort of stand out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you're doing the same thing over here. You're just connecting the top of this line and the bottom of this line all the way over to this vanishing point over here.
Okay.
So like that. Like that. And then it's that same system again, right? Where you're just trying to figure out how wide or how small you want this cube to be. So I'm going to say again, right? It can be this short, it can be this wide, it can go down here, right? You're just literally just dropping down another perpendicular line, but it can't go outside of these diagonal lines that you've connected. So
Gotcha.
anywhere on there, I'm going to say right here, right? And then just darken it up. And then if you don't want these lines anymore, you can erase them. But
Okay.
since you've already kind of made this measurement, you can kind of still come along here and go, okay, I'm going to make another square here, right? Just go from the top to here. Like you already have like this, if you want this cube to kind of be the same height as this first one,
Okay.
right? You can just come along here and then you just, to get this other side of this cube that's over here now, you just connect the top here and the bottom here back to this vanishing point over here. So it'll look like this. Right? And it's hiding behind this cube, so you can just kind of just darken it like that.
Okay. Does this look right? I don't know if you can see from.
Let's see. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That looks good.
Okay, so that's the vibe. That's what we're doing.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Let's see. Is there a 3-point perspective like when you look up at a skyscraper, or is that just 2-point from a different viewpoint? No, that's a total different thing too. So everybody draw in another square on that as well, and then we'll move on and do that. But real quick, 3-point, right? This is where you have 3 vanishing points now, right? So how that rule that's in 2-point where all of our vertical lines are going vertically with our paper, that now gets thrown out the window because now every single line is going to be going back to one of these vanishing points that you put down. So I'm going to do it just real quick. So let's see. We have a vanishing point down here. And you're just going to project some lines up. The vanishing point over here. Throw in some lines. Like that. And then you'd have another vanishing point over here. And you just throw in some lines. And then from there, it's kind of the same vibe, right? Like you're just making a shape, but now you're making that shape out of all of these lines that you're seeing here. So say I want to make a cube. all of these lines now all have to go to a vanishing point. Like that. So this one's really cool. 3 points cool. It's it's one of those things that I don't really teach because it's like if you're struggling with 1 and 2 point, 3 points just really going to make you want to quit because again, right, all these lines that you're kind of having to deal with. It's fun, it's doable, and like you can definitely do some crazy stuff with it, and don't shy away from it. But just know like this is what you're kind of having to deal with. And again, right, the closer these vanishing points are, do you see how distorted this side of the shape is? You see how like just really wide this side of the shape is? That's because these vanishing points are too close to the paper. So when you're drawing in 3 point, you really want to have these vanishing points be really far away from each other, and it can get kind of nutty. Like you have to kind of draw on like really big paper to do it. But again, right? You all have sketchbooks. Maybe on our last since next week is our last time, we'll mess around with it a tiny bit, but again, it's something that I don't teach because we only have 5 weeks and it's just, so it's a little bit more complicated. Did everybody get in like they have like three at least 2 to 3 squares on this first one? Okay, cool. All right, so that's basically what you're kind of dealing with, right? The same rules apply. You can have, you know, it's the same rules that we did in 1 point, right? Like if we put a square up here, right? We're still going to only see the bottom. We're going to be seeing the bottom, top, and side. If we put a square underneath, we're going to be seeing the tops of things. So it's like those same rules apply now, right? But you're just seeing now you're kind of always seeing 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, like sides of shapes that you're doing. I'm happy to stay with 1 and 2 points. Yeah. You can do a lot of damage with 1 and 2 point perspective. Like 3 point is it's kind of used more so in like science like sci-fi books and stuff like this is like a really good example of like 3 point perspective, right? It's for like wild angles, and I definitely, like I said, like play around with it. Like it's definitely like a cool tool to use, but it just takes a little bit to get used to. All right. Any questions on building shapes in 2 point? Nope. Everybody good? Okay. Cool. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna try to tackle these guys. So let's start with this one right here. Another thing I want you guys to kind of get used to is I know we kind of practice doing this grid system a lot, but I don't want you to think that every time that you want to sit down and draw buildings and stuff, like you have to kind of do this, you know, build out this grid system or draw on gridded paper. Like you can literally just grab a piece of paper, right? Know that we have 2 vanishing points and you can just start to sketch, right? So what I kind of like to do when I'm attacking like something like this, right, is I like to look at what we're dealing with, right? I'll go up to this building and go, okay, we've got 1, 2, 3 floors to kind of deal with this first building. I look at this building that's over here. It's a little bit taller than this building. So this building next to it is like 4 stories high. The building that's next to that is even a little bit higher, right? But like, what is the shape that we're seeing here, right? Anybody, if you guys can take your mics off and just kind of chime in. Like, what are the shapes of these buildings that we're looking at? Like rectangles, right? Yeah, right. So like maybe like before this class you looked at this and you're like, holy crap, I'll never be able to draw this, right? But just knowing that it's a bunch of rectangles right? Doesn't that make that just like kind of a little bit easier? Just kind of knowing that, right? And then you can just throw in the little details after that. So there's a thing called thumbnailing, right? It's when you just do a really quick sketch of the battle ahead, right? So everybody kind of again with those four these four rectangles, right? We got a pretty decent. We're doing pretty good on time. So when you're working in 2 point, especially with something like this, let's take a look at this, right? Like you can see that all of these diagonal lines here are going to this point off in the distance, right? Everybody see that? But over here, right, you can't really see where these diagonals end at, right? Same thing over here. We can see all these diagonals on this side of the street are going to this point, but these guys right here, you're going way off over, off the side of the picture, right? So you kind of have to account for that. So when we're just kind of sketching around, let's we always want to find our horizon. So let's kind of sketch this first one right here. So finding that horizon on something like this, there's a couple things that'll kind of tip you off to that where the horizon is, right? You can see the tops of these cars, right? So that means our horizon line is above these cars, right? Because we can see if we think of these cars, right? I'm just going to draw a really quick car. Right? If we think of these cars as boxes, sorry, hold on. Okay, that's better. If we think of these cars as boxes, like we can see the top and we can see the bottom of that, right? That means our horizon line is above this shape right here, right? So anytime you're starting to see the tops of things, know that your horizon line is above it. If it was a little bit lower, right? Like say we're looking at a shot and all of the cars were like this, right? That would mean like we can't really see the bottom of this car. We can actually kind of see the bottom of this car. So that might mean that our horizon line is below these cars, right? Because we can see the underside of these cars. But again, right, we're thinking of everything in the basic shapes. So look back at our reference here. Another kind of clue that you can look at is like, again, right, you can kind of see the top of this mailbox right here, right? If we zoom really far out, in 2 point, it gets a little bit tricky, but a way to kind of let you know you have sort of a neutral horizon line, which is kind of what we're dealing with here, is if you can see the street and the sky kind of equally, right? Like we can see kind of both the clouds or the sky, and we're seeing a lot of street. So that means that this horizon line is placed a little bit in the center enough to be able to see both of those things. So go ahead and one of these in this first square you got right here. Let's go ahead and just say that the horizon line is going to be about in the middle here. So go ahead and put a straight line just through that first rectangle you got here. Okay. Now we've got that vanishing point. We know it's going to be in here because we can see it in the reference photo, right? So it's kind of cocked off to the side here. So put it about right there. All right. Now, for the challenging part, our other vanishing point. If you got another piece of paper near you, go ahead and just put it like kind of off to the side of your first paper like this. Yep. And go ahead and just extend out that horizon line. So trying to figure out that angle, right, is a little bit tricky. So what I like to kind of do first is I'll just project out a bunch of lines from this first vanishing point. Just like that. And then I'll kind of start to build out like the big shapes that we're seeing. So let me grab the reference again. Cool. So I'm going to come to where that corner is, because that's kind of like the split between this shot, right? So I'm going to say the top of this corner is going to be about right here. And then the bottom of that building is going to be about right here. So again, right, we're starting with that, just that nice line that's going down. What I'll do from here is I'll draw back. I'll connect from the top and the bottom back. Just like that. And now I got to figure out how wide I want this first side of this building to be. Again, right, you're just playing around. You're just kind of getting that feel for it. So I'm going to just say maybe this building's going to be about this wide, right? Then from there, I'm going to figure out the height of the second building that's next to it. I'm just going to say it's going to be about this high, right? Now we've got a new height. So go ahead and just connect. You already have the bottom already settled. So you don't need to really worry about that anymore. Now you're just trying to figure out the tops of all these buildings. So the top here, just connect that line back to your vanishing point over here. Like that. And again, you're figuring out how wide you want this building next to it to be. You don't want it to be too wide because it is going back towards our vanishing point. So you don't want it to be too wide because you got a bunch of other buildings to kind of account for. But you do want it to be a little bit smaller than this first building that you put here. So I'm just going to say about right there. And we're working small in this thumbnail stage because we're just kind of getting a feel for the drawing that we're trying to do. All right. Okay, now we've got that. Let's just stop at this third building here. So we've got one more building to do, and this building, this third building is a little bit higher than this one. So again, right, it's just a straight line up till you feel comfortable enough. You're like, all right, that feels like that's pretty high. Connect that back to your vanishing point. And again, figure out its width. It just needs to be a little bit smaller than the building in front of it. So I'm going to say it like that. And go ahead in here and just like kind of clean this up a little bit. Try not to clean up your horizon line. You always want to know where your horizon line is. But you should have something that kind of looks like this, right? Cool. Everybody got that? All right. So now the tricky part. Finding that angle for this side of these buildings, right? What you can do is you can either just kind of go along this horizon line and go, okay, maybe I'll put the second point here. And I kind of lightly do it. And then you're just projecting lines and you want to kind of just stop at this first building here, right? So I'm doing it very lightly. And seeing that angle, right? Then I'll go back and look at my reference and go, okay, like my reference, it seems okay. Like this angle seems decent, but what if I want just a little bit more of a diagonalness to this side of the building, right? All you gotta do is just erase and move this vanishing point either closer to the picture plane or further away. So let's try to do it a little bit closer. Let's say it's like right here, right? And then again, you just project lines to just starting with the top with this first building here, right? Then kind of look at your reference again and go, all right, that seems like that's a little bit more kind of in the realm that I'm thinking, right? Um, Go ahead. I feel okay with this. Is if everybody's how's everybody looking on theirs? Doing all right? Okay, cool. So then you just want to figure out again, right? The width of this building, like how wide do you want this building to be? This building in our reference is pretty wide, so I'm just gonna say maybe about right here, right? Kind of darken that up a little bit. Get that. And then you're just going to do the same thing for these two buildings here, right? You're just going to connect from this vanishing point all the way to the top of this next building. And if you need to get out a ruler, totally get out a ruler. I'm going to get out a ruler because this stuff can get a little bit hairy. Okay. So there, right? Where this looks okay, right? But this is not bueno, right? You've got what's called a tangent. So this building back here, it does stop, like in the reference, it does stop. Um, it does stop a little bit behind this building right here, right? But this is just, you don't really want to do stuff like this. This is just going to get, it just looks bad. So if this is happening, all you have to do is either shorten this building or make it a little bit taller. Let's see what happens when I make this taller, right? And then connect it back. So this actually gives me a little bit more space, right? It gives me a little bit more breathing room. I can just say the end of this building is here, and then I just need to connect the top now back here, right? Erase that line, erase that line. Right now, like, doesn't that look a little bit better? Doesn't it look like there's two buildings like in front of each other than how we had it before? So just try to make those little adjustments. You always kind of want buildings to be like they're stacked in front of each other. You always want there to be kind of like they're crisscrossing each other, they're stacked in front of each other, but you also do want that breathing room too. So now we have to just kind of make that adjustment for this one too. So I'm just going to make this third one just a little bit taller, connect that back to the vanishing point, and boom, that looks pretty good. So just like that. So this is even in our thumbnails, right? Like how much like thinking and like kind of erasing and adjusting that you're doing, right? Like you got to kind of get used to that when you're working in perspective. Like it's going to be a lot of it's a lot of like tinkering and toying around. Everybody good so far? Cool. All right. So we've got buildings over here, we've got buildings over here. Let's just do this sidewalk here again, right? Just you're just kind of figuring out where you want that, how far out you want that sidewalk to be. Um, I'm going to come along here and just kind of project. I think that feels like that's wide enough. And then again, you're just projecting to there. And you would kind of do that again, right? I mean, I kind of lucked out and like this just feels pretty good, right? But again, right, you kind of again you have to just play around with what like looks and feels good to you, right? If we wanted, since we're already here and we're already doing this little thumbnail breakdown, let's go ahead and just pencil in these other two buildings that are over here. Again, right, it's super duper simple. You already have the bottom of you already have the bottom done. So just figure out how high you want these next two buildings to be. I'm going to say this next building is going to be that high and about this wide. And then the one next to it has a little bit of a higher edge as well. And boom. Right. So from there, right, that's like kind of what you're dealing with. All right. You'll run into some things where they'll tell you like these two vanishing points here are technically they are degrees, right? Like if we were to really kind of break this down, this would be I actually don't even I've read it so many times in like perspective books and I still don't really understand it to this day, but like you want to try to they try to tell you to kind of think of this as like this is at 30 degrees and then this would be at 60 degrees, right? Um to me that's like really complicated and just I don't know, it's just really annoying to kind of deal with. But just know that if you don't like the angle of this, that means you need to either move one or two of these vanishing points to the left or to the right. Like if I wanted to see less of this side and more of this side of the street, I would have to then move this vanishing point over more. So I'll move this vanishing point from here. I'll move it over here, right? And I still kind of like that this angle right here. So I'll say my second vanishing point is going to be here, right? I'm just going to do this one really quickly. I'll move this vanishing point way over here. So now we're seeing way more of the front side of this and less of this guy, and less of these guys over here. So you get that by moving these vanishing points either left or right on that, depending on if you want to change the angle of things. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. So from there, we've got our tiny guy here. Let's go ahead and work up a bigger piece. So everybody grab two sets of 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. If you have it. What size paper does everybody have? Does everybody got like big pieces of paper they can work with? Okay. All right, cool. If not, two two 8.5 by 11s is okay. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna set up that same drawing, but just bigger, right? All right, so let's start with our first piece of paper. Let's start with like a pretty neutral horizon line again, right? So instead of it being like directly in the middle of this 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, let's just put it about like, let's say this is the middle. Let's put it about a ½ inch down from that. So if you want to get technical with it, it would be like four and a four and a four and a half. That's where your horizon line should be. Go ahead and make that line. On your second piece of paper, because we already know that our second vanishing point is going to be way off to the side here, just continue that line, your horizon line, all the way across that. And if you want, you can tape these two pieces of paper together. Which is what I'm probably going to end up doing. Right. Cool. So just so it look like that. And so we're going to be doing the one that we just did. So I want y'all to kind of, if you're new to this, you can try to make it about as close to this as possible, close to this angle that we're seeing here. If you're a little bit more advanced, I want you to play around with those vanishing points a little bit more, right? Like you can either move it in so that we're seeing more of the side of this building, or you can move your vanishing points so that we're seeing more of this side of the buildings. But we're only focusing on this building here and these two guys that are next to it and the sidewalk. Don't worry about the cars. Don't worry about the trees. Don't worry about the light pole. Don't worry about the mailboxes. We're just setting up a drawing that's basically going to look like a drawing should basically just be this. Good. Sound good to everybody? Cool. All right. So you guys go ahead and start drawing. I'm just going to walk through it. So you'll have it for the recording. Did everybody get week 3's recording too? That was in everybody's like, okay, cool. Video came out okay. Everybody can like kind of follow along with it. Yay, nay. All right. Take that as a yay. All right. So go ahead and play. And like I said, I'm just gonna talk through it and draw through it as well, so you can have it for video and you can kind of look on how to do it. All right. So I know we have the vanishing point here because we can see side here, and we now have another vanishing point all the way over here. Everything though is going to be on this one piece of paper that you're working on. Try not to have this drawing going across 2 pieces of paper. So we've got, I'm going to say this first vanishing point is going to be here. I'm just going to lightly, like I said, just project out some lines. And we're literally just doing what we did in that thumbnail process, but just bigger. So this time though, I'm going to account for that sidewalk a little bit earlier. I'm going to say my sidewalk is going to come out to maybe about here. All right, and then my buildings are going to start maybe a little bit back here. Reason why you kind of want to do that is because you don't want to draw your buildings first, and then knowing that there's a sidewalk in front of it, you might run into where your sidewalk is like really touching the bottom edge of your paper, and you don't want that. It's going to look kind of it's going to look poorly cropped. So try to account for that sidewalk space first. So I'm going to say, all right, like just dealing with this side, this feels pretty good, feels pretty wide, like wide enough that I have like, space to draw like a 3 squared sidewalk. And then I'm going to come back and start figuring out the heights and widths of those buildings back here. So let's say that corner building is going to be maybe about this high. And again, from the top, run back to the vanishing point. I mean, you can even do like, just lightly do this because you're going to erase, but just do like VP1 is back here. So bottom of this one's going to go all the way back to VP1 as well. So now we have the top and the bottom of our building. Just got to figure out the width. I'm going to go back and look. So the side of this building is not too wide and it's not too skinny. So it's, again, right? Like, what's that fairy tale where it's like, is it Goldilocks and the 3 bears? It's like not too, I don't know. But try to think of that. As far as like feeling goes, right? Like this space right here feels like I could fit the 2 windows up top, 2 windows up in the middle floor, and enough room for the big window and like the little sign that's on it as well. The height right now feels maybe a little too short. So I'm going to go ahead and just adjust that now. I'm going to say maybe this first building here is going to be about that high up. And that feels a little bit better. Try to keep in mind the tops and the bottoms of your paper. You really kind of don't, you almost want to, you can either come in here and put like a half-inch margin around your paper just to kind of give you a place where you should be. Like, you don't want your buildings to be running flush to the top of your paper, right? You want there to be a little bit of sky in there as much as you can help it. Okay, so we got that second and third building to kind of deal with. So again, I'm just going to say maybe this second building is going to be about this high. And then let's connect it back to the vanishing point. Okay, that feels all right. That height feels okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this one. And I'm gonna find the width of this second building again. Look at your reference. It's a little bit skinnier than the first building, right? So I'm gonna just say this feels about right. There's two windows here, two windows here, two windows here, big window down here, right? So you've got 4 floors to kind of deal with. So when you think of it like that, like look at where your windows are in your reference and how much room is on either side of those windows. And kind of try to kind of plan for that. Again, right, once we start putting windows in here, we're probably going to end up erasing and maybe making these buildings even wider and shorter. But for now, just try to get their basic shapes in there. This feels okay for me. I'm just make it a little tiny bit wider just in case. Okay. And then we've got our third building behind that. Same scenario. All right. Find that height. Then go back. And again, right, we're not really using rulers at this point. We're kind of keeping it a little funky because you can always go back later. You don't want to like get all these tight with a ruler, and then once you start putting the details in there, you're like, oh my God, I got to erase and make stuff wider. So that's why it's kind of good to just kind of just freely sketch this stuff out first. Good. And yeah, we've got, a couple windows as well to deal with. Good. But it feels like I should have enough room for all that detail that's going to be in there. Now, got to figure out this side of these buildings here. A lot of times too, your other vanishing point and 2 point, it doesn't have to be all the way off to the side of your second piece of paper, right? A lot of times you can get some very convincing 2 point perspectives with just being about like an inch or two outside of your paper. The further away that you go, the more kind of natural and I don't want to say flat, but just it's going to be less at an angle the further out you go. Like from back here, very neutral. If I'm here, it's very angled, right? Like the closer I get to this paper, the more angled these buildings get. So you kind of want to, depending on personal preference. I mean, this if you're getting stuff like this is like way too close. This does not look good. You kind of want to be in this sweet spot kind of over here, right? But again, right, you guys just see that I'm just kind of placing a point and then just projecting to that first building. Right. You can even project to the edge of that sidewalk just to even see like how that would even look. But you're just playing around, right? You're kind of trying to figure it out. Um, and I think I might have just figured mine out. I think this feels okay, right? If I kind of go in and sketch, and then let's see what this looks like touching this other building here. Not bad. So I'm gonna stick with this guy right here. Let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna stay about right here. Um, if you're curious, it's about oh, very far away. It is about 5.5 inches off of this paper. So I'm gonna say that's good to me. I'm gonna grab a little bit of tape because this is getting a little annoying. Another way around this too is to say you're gonna make an 8.5 by 11 drawing. You can grab like a big piece of like either like 11 by 17 paper and you can draw out 8.5 by 11 on like kind of like in the middle of that, and then you'll have enough room on either side of that for to be able to play around with those vanishing points. You can get even bigger paper, like a 14 by 17, 18 by 24, so on, and kind of do your drawing on a big piece of paper, but smaller on that big piece of paper. So you don't have to deal with this. But if you don't, you can just do it like this. So now we found our second vanishing point, VP2. Now we are going to connect. All these lines. Let's see what we got. Okay. And not bad, right? This feels, I might have to make an adjustment. See, this feels a little too, maybe even like a little too wide, honestly. Let me draw in this side of the building. Let's say it stops about right there. Get rid of all these other lines. So that's what we're looking at. Which actually is it's not bad. I'll keep that. Okay. All right. Sorry, my cat was scratching at the door. All right. So from there, we've got our buildings kind of set up. So now we've got to go in now and put in the detail stuff. So let's take a look at that. All right. So looking at this reference, right? We've got this base floor down here where we've got the front door at. We've got the side window. We've got another door here. If we go up to the top floor, we've got two windows over here, two windows above that. If we go to this side of this building, we've got a garage over here, two smaller windows, and one, two, three windows up top, one, two, three in the middle here. It's just kind of good to just kind of look over that thing and just kind of assess that for yourself. So we know that we have to split this first building up into 3 floors, right? Second building next to that, we've got to split that one up into 4 floors. And then you could also say for the building next to that, that should also be 4 floors. 4 is easy to do, right? 4 is easy to do. We're just doing the X method. Find that middle. And then you're just doing that again. And then one more time. So what that gave me, right, is this is our 4th floor, 3rd floor, 2nd floor, and 1st floor. Okay. So again, right, you're doing the X method that first time to get the middle of this building here. And then you're doing the X method again after you found that middle. You're doing the X method again to find the middle of this top. And then you're doing it again one more time to find that bottom. Okay. Part of me wants to say that you can also cheat and kind of you can just use these measurement lines that you already have for this building next to it. See how it looks, right? Like, because this is the thing about perspective too. It's like once you've kind of found a couple guidelines, you can use those guidelines again throughout your drawing, right? To me, this feels mostly okay because we do have like the top of this building, we have like a little bit of like the roof here. So again, right, you could either use these measurements for here to bring over here, since these are both 4-story buildings, or X method, find that middle. And then X method again down here. Find the middle of this part of the building. And then one more time up here.
Quick question, how are you finding the middle?
Yeah. So the middle is anywhere where there's an X at. There, let me do this guy real quick. Okay. So the middle of this, see how this is kind of like a square, the front side of this building. You're just connecting the corners.
Okay,
And where
so you're
that,
not doing a big X, you're doing 2 small X's.
so you do that here. I'll like you start from the top. Okay. So you're starting out with the whole building. You want to cut this whole building in 2. So you start with the whole building. So you're going to go from the top here all the way to this corner down here. And then do the same thing here. Go from this corner here all the way to the bottom there. And that X is going to give you the middle of this building measurement here.
Gotcha. That's the step I missed.
That's okay. Yeah, no worries. And then, right, so now you have 2 squares that you also need to find the middle of that to break that into equal floors as well. So from there, you can even just kind of like erase those 2 lines. And then just repeat that same process again.
Okay.
Now, if you're out and you're sketching, right, do you have to go this hard, right? With like doing X methods and all this stuff to split up these floors, right? I don't want you to walk away from this class thinking that you have to go through all of this. If you just want to take like a pen and paper and just go sketch your neighborhood, you can walk around your neighborhood. I do encourage, if you want to sketch something, break it down into simple shapes first, right? But if you're just drawing real quickly on the go, like just use your eyes, right? Like use your eyes and go, okay, there's 4 floors here. I know there's a window here, window here, window here, window here, window here. blah, 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 right? But this is for a piece, right? Like you're at home drawing, and you want this thing to look good. These are the methods that will get you there. But if you're out and about, I don't want you guys to sit there on a bench making X methods and doing all this. You can just sit there and just draw what you see in front of you. Just try to keep in mind some of these techniques that you're using, right? Like say you are drawing a building that has 4 floors, you can very quickly bust out an X method real quick, right? But I don't feel like you always have to go this meticulous, right? You can literally just sit there and just sketch. So, but it's just for when you're doing these pieces that you maybe want to show people, or maybe you have a commission, right? These are the methods that you'll use to get a little bit of a tighter drawing, right? Okay. So now we have to split this building here into 3 floors. So everybody, I haven't taught anybody how to in this class yet how to break things into threes. So go ahead and look up here real quick. Off to the side of your paper, everybody just make you can either do a rectangle with a ruler and just make it, like, let's say like 2 inches by 3 inches, right? 1, 2, 3. Or you can do it freehand. You just need a shape. And also feel free to stop me if I'm going too fast. Okay. You just need a rectangle. Or it can be a square, like just make yourself a shape. All right. So to split things into 3, one question, doesn't your paper get really smudgy after all this penciling and erasing? Yes. So it really depends on the paper that you're using for that, Amy. If you're using paper that has like more of a tooth to it, like a watercolor paper, that is really going to smudge. So you got to make sure you have a pretty hard lead for that. I believe is it HBs are like the harder, or is it Bs? I forget which one. I use just Blackwing, so I have no idea. But it's either one of those two. You want to use the one that's harder because a harder lead, you can kind of do this, as you can see, like right here, right? Like I'm doing this, I'm not getting any smudges, right? If I was using like a softer lead, this would be smudge city. H is harder, B is black and soft. A, uh, hey, we're in class. Ew. No, I'm joking. Let's be professional. H is okay. So there you go. Use H for the only problem with H though. The hard lead is whatever line you make sure you're kind of going soft with it because it's going to um double entendre. Yes. Um, if you're using a harder lead, whatever lines you put down, they're going to be a little bit harder to erase because that lead is, for whatever reason, it's just very strong. So just be really, really kind of gentle with those lines. But with the softer leads, you can really kind of go either hard or soft, and you can always erase it. But yeah, try to use either a smoother paper like computer paper for these kind of sketches is really good, doesn't smudge. Bristol board is really good for not smudging, and also just a harder lead. All right, so back to splitting something into threes, right? So you're going to still do that X method, just like that. Everybody do that. And then you're gonna, where that middle is, you're gonna pull down a vertical line like that. So now you have 2, right? But we want 3. So all you got to do is just now connect. Oh, is everybody here, by the way? All right, cool. So to get this split into threes now, you're just going to connect this corner. So this will be A. You're going to connect A to the top of this intersection here, which is B, right? And then you're going to do the same thing over here. So you're doing boom, boom. Should look kind of like a star. Everybody got that? And then you're going to do the same thing up here. A to B. And this A to B as well. So boom, boom. Now, you see where these 2 points have crossed? They're going to be a little bit off because we're doing this freehand. It's always going to be a lot tighter if you use a ruler. But where these intersect, or just about where they intersect, that's where you're going to drop down your lines. It's okay if they're a little bit off. You just want them to just, when you're dropping down this line, you just want it to be straight. Right? Then you just erase this middle line too. And erase that. And now you've got 3 equally sized rectangles. Everybody see that? Cool. So now you have to do that over here, right? Like, again, do that for practice, right? But if you're just sketching out in public, right, you can come up here and just try to meet in the middle here, right? Like if you don't want to, if that's an annoying process to do, right? You can literally just go, okay, this is my bottom floor. So let's say my bottom floor stops at about right here. And then you just want to find the midpoint between this top right here, the top of your building, and the first floor, right? So we could just say it's like right here. And then just bring these lines, these dots back to your vanishing point. And you'll get, roughly 3 equally sized floors, right? Is the third method's in the notes? I will think it is. I think it might be in the PDF. Let me check real quick. But if not, I have it. I have it drawn out and I can send that over to you. Yeah, it's not. I didn't put it in there this week. I will put that in there. I'll send you guys that in a JPEG. Right. So I'll do it here too. But again, right. So let me finish this thought. But like, I want you all to play. Like, as long as you know these methods, right? I don't want y'all to think that you always need to be, doing X's and N methods and stuff like that, especially if it's just, you just want to draw something. You just want to draw something, just try your best to make these floors evenly spaced, right? But if you want it to be a little bit technical and more correct, we'll do the X method here. I'm going to use a ruler this time. And boom. And if you get good enough, like if you do these methods long enough, you'll be able to just kind of freehand them, kind of like I did. Right? And then, it's funny, it's like you'll freehand stuff and then you'll go and actually do this method over top of it. And a lot of times you'll find that you're like not too far off. So that's why I kind of encourage people to go freehand a lot. Because it's just all about confidence and it's all about just building up that confidence. The only way to kind of do it is to freehand, and you always know that you have your ruler available. You can always grab that thing. All right. So now here, instead of doing it vertically like we did in the example, we're kind of doing it horizontally now. And the same rule applies, right? You see where this right here and this right here and this right here, anywhere these intersect, that's where you're going to be running your lines to. And you'll see, right? Like, look, I wasn't very far off, right? From when I just did these freehand. So again, like try to play around with it freehand because you'll like look at that. That's like not, I mean, that this one's a little bad, but it's still not that bad, right? Cool. All right. So any questions so far? I feel like I've been like babbling this whole time. Talkbox Jones tonight. Then you just clean it up. And just make sure you're not erasing your horizon line too bad. All right,
Do
cool.
those lines go back to the horizon point?
Say that one more time, Lori.
Do those lines where you just identified the floors? Do
Yep.
they go back to the horizon point? No, they don't. You said you could use those, but they're not accurate, right?
These first ones I did, those.
No, the ones that you just did that divided the building into 3 floors,
Yep. Those are going back to this vanishing point here.
they do.
Yep.
Mine don't want to. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So here's another great rule. So if that's happening, right? If yours are
Mhm.
kind of looking weird, right? They're
Wonky.
looking like a little
Mhm.
too if you freehand it and then you did that method over it and it just looks weird, you can fudge it. Like just as long as as long as your lines either look like they're going to this vanishing point or they are going to that vanishing point, you just need to give that illusion, right? Because again, we're not architects. We're basically illusionists.
Mhm.
So a lot of times, like when you're drawing, you'll get into some detailing here. And a lot of times, like some of that stuff you can just fudge. Like you can just be like, I just know that whatever's on this side, all the diagonals need to go to this vanishing point over here, right? So I can just draw in that sign. I can just freehand that sign, right? But that's something that's kind of like a little bit further down the line. But again, right, you just need to be giving just all of your diagonal lines need to be going to one of each of these vanishing points.
So I have another question.
Sure.
So couldn't you just divide the line to the right, the edge of that building, into 3? One, two, yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
or 2 in the middle, and then just draw a line back to the horizon point? Would that be the same?
So it wouldn't be the same because if you can only do that if you're looking at something dead on, but this is in perspective. So you could divide this up, like say this is like say this corner is I don't know 4 inches, right? You could divide that by 3. I'm terrible at math, so I don't know what that would be. Like 1
1.3.
yeah, 1.3 or something like that. Right? And you can get
Mhm.
those measurements, but this line down here, the end of that building isn't 4 inches. So you'd have all of these lines that aren't like lining up. Like what this gets you is this because we remember like we're working in perspective. So it's like whatever's like 1.3 up here isn't going to be 1.3 back here because this line is shorter than that. So that's why you go through this, X and N method stuff is to always be accounting for things getting smaller and smaller as they get closer to the vanishing point. I had that same question too when I was learning this. I was like, why aren't we just using the ruler? And you're like, it's because measurements are changing all the time. All right. We are at 7:52. Does anyone need a Brizac? You guys have been working like crazy this whole time. Anyone need a break or keep going? You guys cool to keep going? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, cool. We'll keep going. Okay. Actually, that works out perfect because the next couple things we got to do are a little bit more challenging. So let's take a look at a screen. All right. So now we got to get into doing these windows and doing all the little detail here, right? Don't worry about the brick stuff just yet. Like just worry about we're going from big to medium to small, right? So big detail is the shape of the building. Medium detail is going to be the windows and things that are attached to the building. And then we'll get into like all the little minute details. But to find windows, it's pretty simple. Again, how I like to do it is I'll start where there's the most windows at, right? I'll just start up top here. I will come over to this corner line right here, and I'm going to figure out the height and the width of my building or my window. All right, but just count real quick. I just count like I have 3 windows here and then a small bay window at the end to account for. Basically, what I like to do is I kind of like to come in here and I just either like to sketch like the general height of that window that I want. I put like 2 dots here on this corner, or I can even sometimes I'll just come in here and just kind of draw out a rough idea of like how high and how wide I want these windows to be, right? But even still, I'm still bringing this measurement that I'm doing back here first. So I'm going to actually just do it back here and then work. So I'm going to say about that high. Let me grab my ruler and stuff like this. This is kind of a good time to break out the ruler. But again, just keep it light because we, again, are going to probably end up erasing. Okay. So what I did, right? I figured out the height of all the windows that are going to be on this 3rd floor. I did just like a dot here and a dot at the bottom just to kind of represent how high up I want these windows to be. Now, on here, what I personally like to do when I have to attack windows is I make a window, I sketch in about how wide I want this window to be. And I basically use this measurement for everything here, right? Because if we look at the reference, crap, hold up. Why did that just close? Oh my God, so annoying. Okay. So if we look at the reference here, right? Do y'all kind of see like that one could say that there's about 2 windows off to the right of this first window, right? Like I basically like to use the window as like the unit of measurement, right? Because buildings live and die by the spacings of things like the windows, right? You want to account for there being enough room above a window and enough room in between the window that's below it, and then things like this, like on the sides of each of these, right? So I just like to personally just use a measurement. If you're sketching on the street, you can literally just kind of come in here and go, okay, first window is going to be here, second window is going to be here, third window is going to be here, right? But if you want a tighter thing, do it this way. So I'm going to say all my windows are going to be about this wide, right? And then from there, I'm going to just use the X method to find the middle. Connect that middle back to my vanishing point 2. Get it as close as you can, right? And I'm just going to stop here because this is where I want all those window measurements to stop. So from there, if you guys remember, we did the X to N method a couple weeks back. And you basically want to do that from here until you get to the end of your building there. So come up here, connect A. I'm going to zoom in. I know it's kind of tedious, but like A, B, and C. All right. And you can do this. It's probably just best to just use a ruler at this point. But, all right. But again, right, you can also just freehand it as long as this is kind of what I meant by like fudging earlier. Is see this line right here, as long as I'm just making it as diagonal and I know where to stop, as I've done with these other ones that I did with my ruler, right? It's fine. So if getting out that ruler is kind of like annoying to you, but you just keep doing this. And I know this seems kind of a little tedious at first, but what this is going to get you and you get lucky like this, right? Where this somehow magically stops at the edge of your building down there. Sometimes it might stop short. Sometimes it might go a little bit further than the building space that you've had, but sometimes you get lucky like this and it stops right at the edge of your building. So now, right, we did all that. What you can do from here, right, is you can go in here and go, okay, I want there to be a space right here, like 2 inches, 2 window spaces before we get to the edge here. There's going to be a window right here at number 3. So you can kind of darken this guy like that. And then you can say there's 2 other windows further down, right? So you could say that, where's my Zoom link? You could say that 2 windows down is going to be your next window. So it could be here. And then a window in between that, and then this will be your next window. Right? So you would have, and as you can see, all these are getting smaller and smaller as they go. Right? Or since, I mean, I think I've kind of made mine, I made my building a little bit bigger than I needed it to be. I can keep this going. I can say, okay, there's going to be 2 spaces here, another window right here. And then we've got that smaller bay window back here. You can just kind of fudge that one in, right? Because it's smaller. Or you can just say this window, the smaller window is going to be still 2 windows wide, but it's just kind of in the middle of that measurement, right? But I've just basically broken up this this building that I can kind of go in there and kind of customize where I want to put those windows at. So I can even say there's another window. Instead of here, I can say there's a window here, and then there's a window here. But you're using that measurement to kind of give you those window spacings, right? You can kind of play around with it. From there, we've got the second floor to kind of deal with. Again, right, you can use, you already have the widths of these windows, right? If you look at your reference, windows are always kind of stacked on top of each other. So all you have to do is just bring down lines where you've said there's going to be a window at. So there's going to be a window here, a window here, window here, window here, and then we've got this bay window down here as well. Right. To find out where this next row of windows is going to be, fortunately, you have to do the X and N method again, but it's okay. You're getting your practice in. What I like to do is I just flip it and I want this measurement. I want there to be the space between these windows, this next set of windows down here. I'm just going to say it's about the same width as a window itself. So you can either come up here and do it, or you can kind of come down here since we already know this is where all of our other windows are going to be going. And you just do the X method on this window, but you're now doing it sideways. Right? Find that middle. I know there's a lot of lines here. Bring that middle line just down like that. And then you're doing the in method now from there. So A, B, and C. You might need to get a ruler out, but it's okay. Yeah, actually, get a ruler out. And connect. And where that stops, then you're going to do a diagonal line to get the top of those windows. Like that. And then you're doing the same thing to get the bottom. So A, B, and C. And where it stops, right there. Cool. So now you've got that bottom row windows. I know that is it's a pretty tough method. And unfortunately, outside of just like kind of winging it, this is the method that you do for when you have a lot of windows that you kind of want to deal with. If you're drawing like townhouses, right? But afterwards, it's all done, right? So all you have to do now is just darken these up. Just like that. And then this guy again, you can kind of just freestyle him in there. Just needs to look like that. And all these diagonals just need to be going back there. Kind of erase this to clean this up, just so y'all can see. There's that guy. Cool. So now we've got first floor windows, second floor windows. Again, right? If you're sketching or you want to just practice in your sketchbook, you just want to draw buildings, you do not have to go through all of this. If like you just want to spend 15 minutes just sketching some buildings in your sketchbook, you can literally just set up 2 vanishing points and just go, okay, there's going to be a window here. Just try to keep in mind that when you're sketching freehand, these windows need to just be getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? But I would be a bad teacher if I didn't show you the correct method first, right? But now you have both of those methods to play with, right? So like the concept is that you just need enough space up above these windows, in between these windows, and in between these windows, right? Kind of be trying to nail down as best as possible. Did everybody kind of understand that? It's okay if you don't. It's a kind of
I think I missed how you got it from the first floor to the second floor again when you turned it sideways. I missed you drew from
Yep.
the top corner. How did you get that first? I missed how
No
you did
worries.
that again.
So all you do is just come back to this one after you have this whole row done, and you need to move this down, right? All you have to do is you're just doing this whole method here, you're just doing it sideways. So come up, bring a parallel line down from this line here, from this side of the window and this side of the window, bring that down as well. And just bring it down. I just like to kind of just bring it down until, maybe here or something. And then from there, you're just doing the X method on this first guy. Get that X in there. You can either use a ruler or you can just, you found that middle. So now you're splitting this up like that, and you're just bringing down that middle line like that. And then you're just doing the in method sideways now. So connect like that. And I'll show you two methods. So you can either do the A to B, and then C is where you're stopping. So it would look like boom, boom, boom. And then where that stops at C, that's where you're going to run your first diagonal line back to this vanishing point down here. Right. Again, this is tough. So if you have questions, don't sit there and be Mr. Cool Guy. Like ask to see that. I like that LB asked to see this again. So everybody, we're all cool here. We're all friends. If it's confusing, ask me to do it again because it is confusing. Right. So where that hits, that's where you're going to draw in that first line. Right. Then you're going to come here again. So this is now your second measurement. You want to get this third measurement. So you're just doing that same thing again. A, B, and C. This is that middle. So you're connecting A to the middle, and then you're stopping once you hit this line here, which is going to get you that bottom line. So now where it stops here, that's where you're going to draw in that bottom line. So a good way to kind of practice that is doing stuff like this. All right, did that help, LB?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. So again, right, it's just you just turn your paper and you're just doing the X and N method, but you're doing it sideways. So a good way to kind of practice that is, right, you can just start off with a measurement. Right, and then you're just kind of doing this down. So boom, boom, and it stopped at the edge of my paper. It's weird that it does that sometimes, but that's a kind of like a good way to kind of practice those methods. And you can do it sideways too, but doing it flat like this first before you're putting it into perspective is a good way to kind of get comfortable with this method. And I know it's a pain in the butt, but outside of just like freestyling where you want windows to be placed or tracing, this is just unfortunately like the way to draw the little details of things that you're seeing. So yeah, I'll put that in the, yep. So it's just literally the same thing on its side. Does your drawing and perspective course cover a different material, or is it different perspective but not architecture? So next drawing and perspective is just going to be interiors. So we're just going to be working inside, and just drawing like rooms and kind of how you approach drawing like rooms and corridors and things like that nature. So it has its own challenges, but honestly, drawing like a room is way, 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 way easier than drawing the outside world. But again, it's still kind of the same thing, right? So if this is frustrating, right? If it's frustrating, it's okay. It is very frustrating because it's tedious. So feel free, right? Like knowing once you've kind of done this enough, or you've kind of practiced this enough, you can totally fudge this stuff to make it just look like this. Like your buildings just have to look like they're believable, right? Like, so just try to kind of aim for that. If you're gonna go freehand, right? This is just like the believability factor that you're trying to get to. And that's just comes down to making sure there's enough space in between your windows, making sure your windows aren't like running flush with like your like the top of your building. There should always be enough space up here. There should be enough space down here, things like that. So another thing that you can do too, so like once you kind of have these measurements now, all you have to do to get these over here, you just bring these measurements over to this corner line, and then you can just project these back to this vanishing point. I'm just going to show you that real quick before we get out of here. So you don't really have to redo it again, right? You already have the height and width already established since you already established it over here. Now, once you're over on this side, let me look at the reference real quick. We've just got 2 windows to deal with on this side, right? Again, you can do the same thing because these windows are a little bit wider. You can do the same thing where you go, okay, this is how big my windows are going to be. To the X and method, boom, 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 right? And you can go, okay, first window is going to be here. That's the space in between. My second window is going to be there, right? Or since you already have this height and width established, and you kind of want to give yourself a little bit of a break, you can literally just kind of freehand that. Just be like, okay, my first window is going to be here, and I'm going to say it's going to be about this wide. I know that there needs to be a space in between this window, and there needs to be a space like this. Say this is like the end of my building here, right? I just know that there needs to be a good amount of space between that. So I can just say, all right, well, the next window is going to be here, right? This is where I meant when like fudging things. See, like that looks convincing, right? Right? Like it's not terrible. But like try to play around with both of those methods, right? Because I don't want y'all to think that perspective is like drawing in perspective is just such a pain in the, you know what, right? Like there are times where you can pick your battles, right? You don't even have to draw this many windows. You could say that there's one window here. Get rid of these guys. And say that there's 2 windows down there, right? Just because your reference might have all these windows up here. I mean, our reference doesn't have this many windows, but you remember that you're looking at reference to just reference, right? Like you can take stuff out, you can leave things out, put things in. If you're having fun drawing windows, you can add more windows, but this is just the general concept. All right. So how's everybody's drawings looking so far? Any questions? I know it's kind of like threw a lot at y'all with 2 point, but it's okay if you're feeling like a little bit overwhelmed. Again, it's crazy, but I promise you, the more you do it and the more you kind of like dive into it and the more that you kind of figure out tricks of like, like you find your own ways of kind of how to fudge things and how to make things look real, right? Like, let me grab
Yeah, I think you lost me on the windows. Like I'm like struggling with the window situation.
sorry, say that one more time.
I said, I think you lost me with the windows. I'm struggling with the window situation.
Yeah. So windows are tough. And the way that I learned it and the way that I kind of do it is probably about like this, not the simplest way. There are other ways where other people have like explained it to me, or I've seen it in other classes where it's just like, ooh, right? But if you look at comics, right, like this is like is one of my comics. But this is like an easy way that you can kind of do windows, right? Like you can just kind of split them up into like
Okay.
these are like really simple, right? Um, it's after you've sketched enough of this stuff, you can kind of find your footing with them, like find out how you're going to approach them or look at other people the way that they've kind of drawn windows, right? Like here, right? Like I kind of just split this up into like four different floors and then I didn't even use a ruler for this stuff. Like I just kind of just went in there and made it just a Philly warehouse. Like it just needs to look overwhelming. Like that's what Philly warehouses look like, right? Um, trying to think of like what else to say about Windows. They're just a pain in the butt. Like, you know what I mean? It's like one of those things that you just honestly just have to draw a lot of to then for it not to be that much of a pain.
Gotcha.
But again, right? Like just try to mess around. Like try to this is something I actually want to show you guys. Oh my God. I'm really getting sick of Zoom. It's so annoying. Okay. What you can do is go on to Google Maps, right? And you can sketch off of Google Maps. Let's see if this will work. Okay, tight. So, say you want to sketch at night, right? And it's nighttime, you don't feel like going outside, right? You can go to Google Maps, right? Type in a street and go to Street View, and you can just sit here and draw. Like just draw like the views that you're seeing, right? It's good practice. This will kind of help you to kind of just get familiar with buildings, right? If you don't feel like leaving your house, like just come up here, grab a sketchbook, and make make some crappy sketches. Even if your sketches aren't like tight like this, or even if they're not like they don't have to be good at first, but the more that you're kind of drawing these buildings and you're kind of picking up on like the like little intricacies of buildings, like the less daunting it'll feel. So it's okay to feel daunting right now, but there's plenty of ways to kind of practice it. This is like a really awesome way to do it. It's just Google your street, Google any street, and then just just draw based off the computer. But yeah, I've blabbered enough. All right. So that's how you can approach Windows. Once you have it done on one side, you can kind of come in here, do them on the other side. The other good thing about this, right, is once you've established the heights of windows on one building, you can use those for pretty much all of your other ones. Like, because windows on buildings are typically kind of always in line with each other. Let's take a look at the reference, right? Like, we look at this second building here that's next to this first building, right? Like these windows are almost kind of in line with each other, right? They're just like a little bit off. But again, right, it's something that in your drawing you can just be like, well, actually, can't really do it in this one because these aren't the same height. It'll look really weird. But something that you can do if like say you're drawing, say like instead of these buildings being taller, I just made all of these buildings the same height, right? I could use these the heights and the widths for all of these buildings, right? So this is kind of like another way that you can kind of get around having to redraw and redraw and remeasure, right? Do that. All right, what time we got? 8:22. All right. There's one last thing I wanted to show y'all, which is like the bottom floor, with the cutout of this bottom store. All right, so this should hopefully only take like 5 minutes, but everybody see this? You guys see how this door right here is kind of cut into this building, right? So this is called cutting into a shape. What you do with that is, so let's say right. Let's say we have this is our building here, and we want to cut into this to kind of give it that shape that there's like a piece of it missing, right? All you do, and I'll send a JPEG of this too, and you guys will have it on the video. I feel like I've thrown enough at y'all, but how you can approach that door, right, is just this. So you come down here on these lines, you're basically cutting out a cube out of a cube, right? So you're going to come down here, and again, we're just measuring, right? We're just going to say, I want this cutout to be this wide on this side. So I'm going to put a dot along this line. And then over here, I'm going to say same thing. I'm going to go, okay, maybe about that wide. And I'm going to say the cutout's going to be about this high, right? So what you do is you're going to run this piece back to this vanishing point, this piece back to this vanishing point, and where they intersect, you see how they're kind of like intersecting like back here. Get rid of this line right here. That's where you're going to run up a line. And then you're going to do the same thing up here and up here. And now what you've got is you've like cut out a piece, and I'm going to shade that so you can kind of see. Does everyone see that? So again, right, it's like measuring and just kind of chipping away until it feels right, right? This will, like, again, I'll do a little how to do this and then send that to you guys as well. But that's how you go about approaching this door that's down here. Try that out this week. So y'all's homework is to get this first side done and look at I'm going to send you guys again like a reference of how to do the cutout, but I want you to attempt the cutout of this door down here as well. So primarily, I mean, you guys should all have this down, but I want you all to get this side of the building, drawn in with the windows and everything in the garage. Just do it, draw it how you see it, and work it out. If you're a little bit more advanced and you're feeling pretty good about this, I want you to get this side penciled and this building right here penciled. And if you have enough time, you can pencil these two buildings in as well, like the details. But for our beginners here, just work on, after you already have these buildings established, just work on getting these windows in on this side of the building. And if you have time, try to get that door in there. All right.
I
So-
have a question.
Hey, what's up?
I am fascinated by your pencil. And it's almost like one with your hand. What fascinates me is not only the middle of it with that little support you have there, but did you intentionally flatten the eraser, or is it made that way? The band around the eraser looks as though it's been flattened, so there's a different shape at the end of your pencil. Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. It's flat.
Yeah, they just come like this. I don't know. I hate these guys. I don't think they erase that. Well, they're weird, so you can adjust how much of the eraser you want to come out. But as soon as you start erasing, it either falls out
Right.
completely or it just flattens down. So I don't really like to, I just really like the lead of these Blackwings.
It's
But
called a Blackwing.
yeah, Blackwing, hold up, 602.
I
Black.
saw him at Artisan Craftsman the other day.
Yeah, they're great. They're dumb expensive. I got them as a gift.
602.
Yeah, they're
Um,
they're great pencils, but they are pricey. So just
oh,
beware.
okay.
Yeah.
The eraser kind of appealed to me because of the shape and
Mhm.
the fact that I thought it would be practical for erasing vertically. Sometimes it's hard to get an eraser that will erase in between things
Hmm.
because it's either too fat or it's round and it doesn't really erase in a vertical way because it's a round eraser.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why that caught my attention. That shape is unique.
Yeah, try them out. I mean, I think you can get some singles of these
Mm-hmm.
that have these, but if you really want to get a customizable eraser, get these kneaded erasers. You can kind of make them into whatever shape you want. So like, because they're like kind of like a softer
Right.
material. And like, say if you just want to get in between, you can kind of go in here and like make this like pointed, or you can
Mm-hmm.
flatten it out. You can use like the whole thing. They're very pliable and very customizable.
Do they give you a really clean erase like a white eraser would?
Most of the time, you have to, if it's starting to like not pick up the lead, you can do this where you kind of just like knead it
Mm-hmm.
and get it back to this kind of gray color.
Because I love those white erasers. They're made by Mars Staedtler.
Oh yeah.
And I swear by those because and I even have like the holder with this one. You can make it, it's almost like a retractable
Yeah, those are
eraser.
great.
So and I now this is a pen